All right, shalom, shalom, shalom. This is the brother Mayum coming at you from GMS Tampa Bay. First and foremost, I want to give all the glory and all the honor unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rechah HaKodash. Double honors to the elders, apostles of Great Millstone, and much blessing and salutations to the Akim around the four corners of the earth who are diligently pushing out this truth and this truth and sincerity. And real quick, I just want to do a quick lesson. This is a little bit of an impromptu lesson. I've, just scrolling through Reddit, looking at some, videos of those bombings out there in Iran, and I came across this video here. Let me hit pause here, but it's a video of Jamie Dimon. All right, Jamie Dimon. Let me just type that in so you can get an understanding of who this guy is. All right, but this is just Jamie Dimon. Okay, this is just gonna be a quick lesson on for some of you brothers and for you sisters as well, man. But for some of you brothers that are just coming into this truth, you have to understand that this devil, Esau, Edom, the one that the Bible tells you is the wicked. All right, which Edomites. The nation of Edom or Esau, all right, their descendants here on the earth in these last days are those of the so-called white people. Okay, now not all white people are of the lineage of Esau. Okay, all people of the color that appear to be white may not necessarily be Edomites just because of the color of their skin. They could be Israelites. They could be of another nation. You are who your father is. So your bloodline comes from your father. So whatever nation or whatever nationality you are, it pertains to that of your father. Okay, so perfect examples are what's this dude, Blake Griffin and his son. All right, Blake Griffin's son, when you take a look at him, he appears to be a typical white American boy. Blondish hair, blue eyes, real light skin color. But his father, when you look at him, he appears to be of a little bit of a darker shade of a white boy. All right, has a little bit of what looks like reddish, brownish hair, but he's 6'8", so to say, or 6'9", or whatever her height he is, 6'10", or some shit. But his father is a dark-skinned Haitian man, okay, that married a white woman and created Blake Griffin. So, but what I'm trying to get at is that these devils, who the Bible says is Satan, the devil, the adversary of the Heavenly Father here on earth, the physical counterpart of Satan, that is of these Edomites, okay, the so-called white people. And one thing that you have to get clear through your head and have an understanding of is that Edomites are not your friends. Okay, and to a certain extent, you see it still in the spirit of these Edomites on a low level with people that you interact with on a daily. You at times see the true nature of an Edomite, but for the most part, these higher up elites, they don't care. They don't give a damn about how you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans feel about how they feel towards you. That's why these Edomites with money, especially the elites, they don't give a damn about appearances, so to say. Okay? Now, we understand that we've gotten into a place in this culture that we live in where, you can be canceled at any minute for things that you may say. So things are appear to be a little bit more polished, but when it comes down to it, in the background, these devils despise and hate you, Jakes, you Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Okay, so this is Sirach chapter 12 and verse 10. It says, "Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness." And Southern Kingdom, for the most part, they have an understanding that Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, is their enemy in any type of manner. Okay, When you look at how society is organized and structured, it's made contrary to the so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, but much more so the so-called Negro man. Okay, society and its laws. Okay, all how the entirety of how America is structured is structured in a way to where you're meant to fail as a so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American. Okay, and again, like I said, more so the so-called Negroes. All right, but this is something that all you Israelites need to understand, is that these devils are not your friends. No matter how they act, no matter how the things they say, no matter how many black friends they have, these devils hate you. And this is something that's within their spirit that goes all the way back to Cain. All right, which was that same spirit that came back through Esau. Okay, Esau being the older twin brother of Jacob. All right, and we know that Jacob, all right, whose name was changed to Israel when he wrestled with the angel, that he brought forth 12 sons who became known as the 12 tribes of Esau. Each individual son produced what later would become known as nations of Israel. All right, so you had the tribe of the tribe of Judah, you had the tribe of Issachar, you had the tribe of Ephraim, right, the tribe of Benjamin, so on and so forth. And those sons, begot many sons. All right. And so did Esau. Edom had children as well. And those children had children, so on and so forth. And throughout those two lineages, and their journey through, the history that we've come to know, that hatred and animosity that Esau had for Jacob continued through their lineages. Okay? And that, all goes back to the prophecies that, Isaac, who is Yahushai, all right? If you can understand that, okay? But he gave them the blessings. He gave them instructions of things that were going to take place. He prophesied onto Jacob and Esau. Okay, when he told them their blessings, real quick. Let me just prove that point. Genesis. Genesis 26. And let me start at Genesis 27, and I'll just start at verse 26 to get the blessing that that Isaac, Yahushai, blessed Jacob with. All right, because he was the first to get blessed. Because remember, the story is Esau came to Jacob after going out to hunt and not catching anything. He came to him hungry, to where Esau, in an exaggerated state, saw no benefit of his blessing, because his blessing wasn't going to solve his current issue, his current situation of him being hungry and feeling like he was going to starve, which goes to show you how ungrateful Esau was, that he would rather give up the blessing that was meant to be given unto him, from the Heavenly Father, that he gave it up for some food, and raw food at that. Meat that wasn't even fully cooked. Okay, it was still raw, which is what these devils still to this day consume, raw meat. All right, but the point being that he gave his blessing up, so the blessing was given unto Jacob. Now, it was done in a way to where he was gotten over on, so to say, the Jacob pulled a fast one on his father, because with the help of his mother Rebecca, they tricked Isaac into making, because he was sort of blind, pretty blind, not completely, but to where he could still, make out some features. And so they Rebecca made Jacob appear as if he was Esau, hairy all over, And so this is the part where we're at, Genesis 27 and 26. And his father Isaac said unto him, come near now and kiss me, my son. And he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment and blessed him and said, see, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field, which the Lord Yahweh hath blessed. You see? So he appeared to have a scent about him that Isaac knew Esau smelled like, okay, of being outdoors, being outside, okay. Verse 28, therefore the Most High gave thee of the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth and plenty of corn and wine. You see, and remember in the book of Ezra, I want to say it's chapter 8, but I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that. But the scripture where Ezra mentions about that we have an inheritance with the earth, okay, I want to say it's around like the 53rd verse or 54, around there. It may be an earlier chapter, but we were given that inheritance through that blessing. Our inheritance as the children of the Most High, as Israel, as Israelites, is that of the earth. This earth was created for our sake, and that's what Ezra says. Okay, that's what he mentions. That if we had an inheritance with the earth, why do we not possess it? But we're gonna possess it. Okay, and that's what Isaac was blessing Jacob with. All right, I'll read that again. Genesis 27 and 28. Therefore the Most High gave thee of the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth and plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's sons bow down to thee. Cursed be everyone that curseth thee, and blessed be he that blesseth thee. You see, so all these nations are cursed, man. All right, because they have usurped authority over us. All right, primarily through Esau. All right, and they've cursed us throughout the generations. Okay. So that's why these nations are going to soon pay back, their dues, so to say. All right, but let's keep going. Verse 30, and it came to pass as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac his father. So Jacob got that blessing, and he got up out of there. Okay, because he knew the soon enough Isaac would come to find out that really isn't Esau that's with him. So he got out of there before that happened. All right. It says, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. And he also had made savory meat and brought it unto his father, and said unto his father, let my father arise and eat of his son's venison, that thou soul may bless me. And Isaac said unto him, who art thou? And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn Esau. So Isaac is now coming into realization of who's actually Esau and who wasn't. All right, but that's, let's just keep going. It says, and Isaac trembled very exceedingly and said, who? Where is he that hath taken venison and brought it to me? And I have eaten of all before thou camest and have blessed thee. Yea, and he shall be blessed. So he's asking him, where's that? Who was here earlier that brought me, that stew of deer meat, and I blessed already before you came? Who was that? And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great exceeding bitter cry and said unto his father, bless me, even me also, my father. And he said, thy brother, and we're getting to the point of why I came to this verse. It says, thy brother came with subtlety and hath taken away thy blessing. And he said, is not he rightly named Jacob? Wait, Salaki, I skipped over verse 34. And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry, and said unto his father, Bless me, even me also, my father. And he said, Thy brother came with subtlety, and hath taken away thy blessing. And he said, Is not he rightly named Jacob? Because what's the meaning of the name Jacob in the Hebrew? Which is Yaquab. It means a supplanter. All right? And that's what Jacob did. Jacob supplanted his father, which, for those of you that don't know the meaning of the word supplant, it means to get over on somebody. All right? To trick someone. All right? And that's what Jacob did. Standing true to his name. All right? So they're saying, ain't he rightfully called Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he hath and see, Esau is such a goddamn liar, man. And the scriptures tell you that in the book of Psalms, that he's born from the womb, he comes lying. Let's get that real quick, man. That's why you can't trust these devils, man. Everything that comes out these damn devils' mouths is pure bullshit, man. All right? This is Psalms what is it? 58, I believe then. Yep. Psalms 58:3, it says, The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. You see? And Esau is the wicked, pursuing to Malachi 1:4. All right? All this devil does is lie. And here he is crying to his father because he done gave up everything to Jacob, his birthright, and now the blessing is gone. Right? So he's over here lying, talking about that Jacob took it from him. He didn't take it from him. You gave it up. Okay? So back Genesis 27:37, and Isaac's all right, Salakia, I got cut off there. Fucking scam call. But so Genesis 37 and verse 36 again, it says, And he said, Is not he rightly named Jacob? For he hath supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he hath taken away my blessing. And he said, Hast thou not reserved a blessing for me? So now he's still asking his father Isaac if he still has a blessing that he can give him. And Isaac answered and said, Behold, and said unto Esau, Behold, I have made him thy Lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants. You see? So he blessed Jacob with the authority to be over Esau. For him to be a subject unto us, the Israelites. See, Esau, Edom is supposed to be serving us alongside the other nations. Okay? That's what happened during the time of the Byzantine Empire over there in Western Europe. Okay? Where you had Israelites, so-called black, dark-skinned men, all right, that ruled countries and over there in Europe. Okay? That had territory. All right? And the people that served them, that built those castles, was the majority of these other nations, primarily you Edomites, man. Okay? You had some indentured Israelites as well, all right, because, they got into debt, and that's how you became a servant, a slave back in the ancient world. You become indebted to someone, you owe them debt, and you run out of options of how you're going to pay these people back, and you end up becoming a slave, having to work your time until your debt is paid off. Okay, so you did have some servants, of Jake's during the time of the Byzantine Empire, of course. Okay. But it goes on to say, because, eventually then Esau got back into power, and that's not how things should be, but that's a part of his blessing. Let's keep going. It says, Behold, I have made him thy Lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants, and with corn and wine hath I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son? See, so he's asking, look, I done gave him everything. Everything for him to be at rest, to be comfortable, all right, and to have the dominion over the nations of the earth, basically to have dominion over the entire earth. Okay? So what else can I give you? Verse 38, And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lift up his voice and wept. So see, he's trying to appeal to Isaac's emotions by crying in front of him. You know, asking you, is that all you got to give, Dad? Like, you can't give me something? I'm your oldest son. Trying to make Isaac feel bad. And of course, Isaac, as a good father, you know, still gives his son something. And let's see what that something was. And Isaac, his father, answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. And by the sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. You see? And that's what happened. All these generations that Esau passed through being under us, the Israelites, that a period he knew a period would come where he would have the upper hand over us. And it started with the Greeks. All right? After the Babylonians fell, after the Medo-Persian Empire fell, Esau got a complete hold over you Israelites. Okay? Again, starting with Alexander. And then after Alexander, it got even worse for you. Because his out of his generals that took charge over those territories in the Mediterranean region and in the Middle East, okay, the two leaders that, you know, was over y'all was Ptolemy and Antiochus, or the Seleucid line. Okay? And those two men fought back and forth between who would have the complete dominion over you Israelites, man. And those wars were known as the Syrian Wars. I believe there was a total of 6. And you can find that brief history in Daniel's chapter 11. All right? But them devils have been on you Israelites' ass ever since. And then you had the Byzantine Empire, where you Israelites, you know, ruled the earth. Okay? You ruled at that time known as the Holy Roman Empire, or the Byzantine Empire. Okay? There's other words that the rulers of that time were known as well. All right? You had Moors and stuff like that, which is all that is prophesied in the book of Revelations chapter 20. When it talks about that the devil, that serpent, that old serpent, would be cast into prison, into the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. Well, that 1,000 years was during those early first centuries. Okay? When Jacob was ruling during the Byzantine Empire. That was their kingdom. And they ruled until about the late 1300s, when going into the 1400s, when the Ottoman Empire came in and won decisively, and eventually brought down Constantinople, which was the capital of the Byzantine Empire, which today is known as Istanbul. They went in there and destroyed that final stronghold. All right, and then they came back into power, which is that time period became known as the Renaissance, which means the rebirth. And that was these Edomites getting back into power. Okay? And since then, they've had a stranglehold over you Israelites. And some way, somehow, you still believe that these devils are going to be friends with you. Well, they're not, man. And they never will be. So back to Sirach chapter 12 and verse 11, it says, Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away. So you see, no matter how nice these devils may be towards you, when you're around, or the things they say, or how close they've become, in your life, through the process of time, you leave these devils up to a window of opportunity to do whatever they want, and they're going to do some wickedness towards you, man. If not, they're going to, if that's not the case, then, they're going to be plotting against you to overtake you. Okay? And that's what's going to eventually come to pass. That's what it's talking about when it says, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass, meaning a mirror, right? You wipe a mirror that's foggy or dirty or whatnot, it becomes clean. Now you can clearly see your reflection. Well, that's what it's saying. Okay, beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass. And if you stay aware of these devils' tendencies, all right, you can look into the history and see what type of tendencies these so-called white people have, man. Okay, well, they're backstab you, all right? They backstab each other, man. Okay, they set each other up. They kill each other, and that's the same mindset that these devils carry into their normal relationships here on a lower level, man. So you already know that the higher elites have that mentality as well. Okay, and these devils don't give a damn about you, Jakes, man. That's one thing that you need to get through your mind, man. They never did, and they never will. That same mindset they had during slavery is the same mindset these devils still have to this day. Okay, let me get this in Jeremiah. I think it's chapter 13, verse 23. Yep, Jeremiah 13 and 23. It says, can the Ethiopian change his skin, or the leopard his spots? Then may ye also do good that are accustomed to doing evil. And what are the so-called white people? What is their history? They have a history of doing nothing but pure evil and increasing evil upon the earth. Going all the way back to Antiochus Epiphanes, which the scriptures will tell you. Let's just get it real quick. First Maccabees chapter 1. And we'll get to the point. Start at verse 7. It says, First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 7. So Alexander, and this is talking about Alexander the Great. Well, let's just start at verse 1 because it goes into the history. Going to show you that the scriptures has a history in it. Okay, there's true history that took place in the scriptures, proving to you that this is not a made-up story. Okay, so this is First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 1, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, which I believe that was Philip the third or the second, something like that, or Philip the fourth, Salakia. And you can do your history search on that as well. All right, that was another person that existed that Esau proudly proclaims. Okay, and it says, after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece. You see, so he was the first ruler over that complete Greece, because you had Macedon, which is to the northeast of Greece. And so with Alexander taking charge, becoming the ruler, he now emerged, which is something that Philip, his father, was planning on doing, as that was part of his plans, and it just ended up falling on Alexander to be the one to complete the work. Okay, where he merged Macedonia and Greece to become one nation, and he ruled, and he was the first in his stead, meaning he was the first king. All right, it says that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece, and made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. Right, no one could come up against this damn devil, man. He was a master general. All right, this dude couldn't be fucked with out on the battlefield, man, because the spirit of the Lord was on him to be that goat spoken about in the book of Daniels. Okay, it says, and he gathered a mighty strong. Actually, like in verse 3, it says, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. You see, he became prideful. Okay, because he was exalted, man. And to this day, Alexander is still exalted. All right, goes to show you, man. These devils, they proudly throw their history into your face, but don't tell you the full truth of that history. They have it in books. They just don't tell you about it. And Jake is too lazy and too nonchalant about, how this earth is, that they don't care, that these things are written, and they don't need to go look it up. Okay. But it goes on to say, verse 4, and he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him, meaning they had to pay money to them, taxes, so to say. And after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdoms amongst them while he was yet alive. And this is all history. This is all information that can be found outside of the Bible, Salakia. Okay, and so his territory, all right, became divided amongst his generals, which I believe it started off with the main ones being 5 of them. All right, Cassander, Laomachus, Antigonus, Seleucid, and Ptolemy. All right, I think I named 5. All right, it became eventually 4. All right, and then it became really the 2 main characters was the lineage of Ptolemies and of the Seleucids. All right, and out of the Seleucid line came one known as Antiochus Epiphanes. Okay, the 4th. And from this man stemmed what you would call, or what people know as Hanukkah, the Feast of Lights. Okay, the Feast of Dedication. Okay, and so on and so forth. And out of that came what eventually would be known as the Roman Empire. And the Roman Empire took over. All right, they incorporated a lot of what the Greeks did because they were all Edomites. They were different sort of Edomites, but they were all Edomites. Okay, and then Rome ruled over you Israelites. And that can be attributed as well onto Antiochus Epiphanes IV, because it was through him that Rome got involved over there in the Middle East. Okay, when you go into the history. And again, that goes into that Daniel's 11. I think that part where Antiochus Epiphanes meets up with that Roman official, all right, which is, I believe his name was Pappus Lianus. Damn, I forget the last part of his name, but he was the one that he drew the line in the sand, or the circle in the sand around Antiochus, and told him that if he leaves this circle, that he's basically, without giving him an answer of peace, that he's essentially he's setting himself at war with the Empire of Rome. Okay, and that's around like the 30th verse in Daniel's 11. But back, 1 Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 7. And so Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare rule, everyone in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves, so did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. And that's the point. These devils came into power as the Greeks, and evils multiplied upon the earth, man. All right. And then, like I said, they got thrown into that bottomless pit. They went into slavery. All right. Under the Israelites, eventually came back to power. And guess what? The first thing they do when these Edomites, the so-called white people, guess what they did as soon as they came back into power during the Renaissance? They put you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans into slavery. That's the first thing they did. All right. Started off with the Northern Kingdom, the so-called Latino and Native American tribes. All right. When those the rulers of Spain and Portugal, funded, which all that money was given from the small hatters, the so-called Jews. All right. And they funded the building of ships and the hiring of men to come over to what is known now as the Caribbean and South America and the Central America, and enslave those people of those islands. And the hidden knowledge was that the people over in those lands were Israelites. And that bit of information is found in the diaries of Cristobal Colon. okay, who from his own writing said that he knew about the Israelites being over here, okay, because of the book of Baruch. Okay, and since then, these devils have had a foothold on you, on the necks of you Israelites, and some way, somehow, you still think these devils are for you when they hate and despise you. Okay, and now we've gotten to a point in society where the hate for you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans has stemmed down to all the other nations that are commoners amongst the Israelites. Because now you so-called Edomites that are on a low level, that have to live a life just like a so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American, y'all getting affected by what your nation or by what your leaders and the rulers of this world are doing onto the Israelites. Now you're feeling it, and that's why a lot of y'all are fed up, and what's ultimately going to lead towards that uprising. Okay, and we say it all the time here at Great Millstone, man. These Edomites are going to be causing a lot of the trouble that's going to be happening here soon, because now they're going through it like a so-called nigga, and they don't like the feeling. And you know, in the back of their minds, they're thinking, "Damn, this is what's happening. This is how these African Americans and these Hispanics, and you know, if they even mention, but the Native Americans and their reservations, this is how they've lived their whole life, and I don't like this feeling." This feeling of stressing out. This feeling of hopelessness. Edomites can't take that pressure. Okay? And that's why they don't give a damn about you, man. And this is, I had this pulled up. What the hell's going on here? These are some quotes from this dude, Carl Schwab, right? For those of you that don't know, he was the leader. He was the chairman or the head of the World Economic Forum. Back like a couple years ago, he was that head of that organization for a long time. He recently stepped down, so to say, but you know, I believe that's all because that he stepped down around that same time where a bunch of CEOs were stepping down. You know, because something is coming, and these devils know, so they trying to get out of Dodge. Okay, they trying to be seen less. So when the time comes for them to disappear, no one really looks into it too much because they're already used to him, you know, removing himself from the eyes of the public, so to say. So the less they see him, the less weird or strange it is that he just all of a sudden no one sees him ever or hears from him ever, right? Because that's what these devils do, you know. They so-called often say they got offed or off themselves, and really he's alive somewhere on an island like old boy Epstein. All right, but this devil here called Klaus Schwab, he's a devil that, with the position that he has and the reputation that he has the ability to say how he really feels. And a lot of what he says is really directed towards you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. But, like I said, you have these other nations, particularly so-called Edomites, or so-called white people, Edomites, that live amongst so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and they're catching this hell too. All right, so this is just a couple quotes from this devil, Klaus Schwab. The first one says, "The changes are so profound," and this is someone that was pushing that fourth industrial revolution, okay, which is the merging of man with machine, bringing about the MOTB, the mark of the beast. It says, "From the perspective of human history, that has never been a time of greater promise or potential peril." See, and this is the time that these devils are going to bring, that great reset. All right, the greater promise is what comes on the other side of that reset. But the potential peril is there as well. And the scriptures tell you that in the Apocrypha. I forget exactly where the chapter is. I'm not going to get it, but you know that the devices of men brought peril upon the earth. I think it's actually 2nd Ezra chapter 9. All right, where the devices of men brought perils upon the earth. And devices ain't talking about no walkie-talkie or cell phone, man. It's talking about the intents, which, you know, the purposes of those cell phones and everything is to destroy you. You know, so you could say that, you know, those devices that I named were part of this, the device of Esau. Because, you know, at the end of the day, the device of these devils and everything that they use their technology for is to destroy you Israelites, to enslave you. All right. So that they can maintain in power. That's why they have hooked you into their technology, you know, by doing various different so-called miracles. Their technology they created, you know, helps people see, heals people through their medicine, makes people's life easier through through products that you can buy that are, you know, next gen technology. Okay, so they've lured you in with the technology so that when the time comes, they can pull on that rod, and now they've got a hold of you with that hook, man. And there ain't no getting off that. That's the time we're getting ready to see upon the earth, where a lot of people are going to be suffering because of this system. Okay, so do you think that someone that is pushing that out, okay, has an agenda to where they pushing these things out onto the people, you think they actually give a damn about you? See, these devils don't care, man. They'll kill their own and enslave their own to come at you Israelites. You see? That's how much hatred these Edomites, so-called white people, more specifically the rulers of this earth, the rulers of the world, the financial bankers, so to say, their hatred for Israelites is so high that they are willing to enslave their own people. Okay, because here it is. This earth is run by so-called white people. All right, it's made, and you know, policies are in place and laws are in place to make the so-called white man well off in this society and in the world in general. But here it is. You have a good portion of the entire nation of Esau, Edom, that are just as losers as the rest of the Israelites on the planet, as far as, you know, status and level of competency, you know, on particular matters. A majority of our of Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and Edomites are on the same level. In 2026, we're living in the same conditions for the most part. We, you know, have so-called opportunities too. That's why you seen Israelites come up, because they you know, the opportunity is there for Jake. Okay, this is another quote from this guy. Says, when two people are talking, the mere presence of a phone on the table between them or in their peripheral vision changes both what they talk about and the degree of connectiveness. See, these devils have done a lot of research and development with this technology, man, to where they've studied it so well that they know how this technology affects you, man, to a subconscious level, man. Their technology has been able to mold how people interact in society. They've used their technology so well that the technology doesn't even have to be used by an individual, but it's affecting them, man. You see? And someone like that, man, is not a person who's going to ever give a damn about the people under them. Okay? Because they allow these things. And these things destroy the people. But they don't care. So why do you think that they're there for you? And again, I'm speaking to those of you that just coming into this truth, you know, or you know, hearing about this, man, then, hey, this is something that you have to get through your thick skull. These devils are not your friends, man. Okay, they will drag you into a dark situation, man, to where your life could be at hand by either a judgment from the Heavenly Father or by these devils themselves, which ultimately is from the Heavenly Father. But as the scriptures tell you, all right, that the trust in Egypt is going to be unto your shame, man. And that's what a lot of Israelites are going to come to realize, is that they've had their trust in these devils, thinking that these devils had their best interests in mind, and they didn't. That's what a lot of our people are going to wake up to here real soon. That these devils truly never give a damn about you, man. But the Lord has given his spirit over unto a few to come to the true understanding of what these devils and what their intents are with you Israelites, man. All right, so hey, Lord's will, this was edifying. I want to give all the praise and all the glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachah HaKodash. Double honors to the elders, apostles of Great Millstone, and much blessing and salutations to the Akim around the four corners of the earth who are diligently pushing out this truth and this truth in sincerity. With that, I say shalom.